What is going on, everybody? Tyler Brandt back here with another video, and I know it's been a few days since my last video, but with the way this week is kind of unraveled with the Patriots having this Friday practice in Gillette Stadium and it being the last media practice of the pretty much of the year, I figured we would let this day, kind of play out and just see where the chips fall pretty much at the end of the padded practice session of the 2020 training camp, of COVID camps in 2020. So we come to today's video, and basically what we're going to talk about today is a little bit of the, in the stadium, Gillette Stadium practice from today, and just what the offense to me is going to look like in 2020. We're going to do two parts to this video, what the offense is going to look like and what the defense is going to look like. To me, the camps are pretty much over. Bill Belichick himself has said that everything that they're going to learn and implement has been put in. Now it's game simulation and it's stuff like that. So I figured this is it. The guys that are getting reps and the guys that are popping now are probably the guys we're going to get used to seeing in 2020. So I figured since, Monday's video was what to expect, we would end the week here by what is it going to look like. We've seen everything happen. Let's just break it down. So without any further ado, here's part one. We're going to talk about the offense and my expectations for them in 2020. We're basically going to go around position by position and just, a note or two on every position and my expectations for the position. So as always, when we break things down, we're going to start with the quarterback position, the most important position on the field. And this is it. It's Cam Newton's job. If we didn't see it this past week, even though he was getting a tremendous amount of the snaps, even in Friday's practice, him and Brian Lewerke had their team. Lewerke didn't see a snap, so Cam Newton, took 100% of the snaps with the blue team, I believe, in Friday's practice. It's his role. Stidham and Hoyer split snaps on the white team for New England. It's Cam's job. It's his in 2020. He's worked at it. Bill Belichick has praised the effort he's put in. First guy in, last to leave. He's done enough to be the guy. Was I late on the train? Absolutely. And I'll admit it. I just thought Stidham deserved a fair chance, but Cam has earned the job. I'm excited to see what he does in 2020. For what it's worth, through all of the padded practices and everything that they've done, 9 of the 11 practices were competitive. And in both 11-on-11s and in 7-on-7s, Cam went 120 of 188 with 5 interceptions. That's a 63.8 completion percentage. If that's going to be where he sits, then I'm content with Cam Newton in 2020. If it's going to be north of, 62, 63, even 64, 65, I am content with that. I just don't want it to drop below 60 for me personally. I know, Cam can't, he's not going to dot all of his I's, especially, throwing the football, but that completion percentage, I believe when he got hurt in 2018 was around 68. So throwing against a pretty good secondary for it to be at 63, I'm content with that. Let's now look in the running back room and some notes and some thoughts on the running backs in 2020. Unfortunately, they all looked very, very good. Every single one of them that was out there practicing looked very good. So my thought is, who's going to get hung out to dry? Damian Harris had an excellent camp. J.J. Taylor had a pretty good camp for what people perceived from a UDFA. Rex Burkhead, in a limited role when he had snaps as a lead back, looked very good. They signed Lamar Miller to play here in New England. Sony Michel comes in limited action. He looks good. James White is still going to be your passing down back. There's a ton of mouths in that running back room to feed. And naturally, even for an offense that I think is going to run the ball a lot more than usual in 2020, there's only so many mouths you can feed here. So I don't know who's going to be the odd man out, but there's going to be somebody that's going to just not get fed as much as the other guys. It's going to be something interesting to watch. They all look, even J.J. Taylor, who might not have made the team, looks like he may, even as a special teamer, make the team. So that's going to be an interesting cut list to watch, and it's going to be interesting to see who gets the ball for these running backs. From the running back room, we go to the wide receivers, and here's where I start to get a little tough, and my thoughts get a little rough looking at this group of wide receivers. First of all, we know Jules is going to be Jules. We know that. Second of all, Damiere Byrd has showed promise. N'Keal Harry has had himself a pretty good week. He's starting to look a little bit like the guy that we drafted. He's separating at the top of his routes. He's, using his bigger body, especially in the red zone, to find an opening and to catch some touchdowns. There's still some growing pains. I know This week in camp, he caught a touchdown out of bounds. The field awareness, he got knocked for that. But it looks like N'Keal's starting to grow. I'm a little intrigued. I'm happy. It's very good that he's starting to put some good stuff out there. So that's promising. Gunnar Olszewski has looked very good. You know, he's really taken a lot of steps. I think at this point, he's probably a lock to make the final 53 just on the effort he's shown alone. But finally, we're going to get to the last guy here. And I could be in the minority here, but we're going to talk now about Mohamed Sanu. And he's had a good camp, but I just... For the $6 million, you know, tag that's on him, or the $6 million, you know, number that's attached to him, I just don't see it. I mean, yeah, he's, you know, him and Cam have a good connection, but at this point of his career, I just don't think he's a guy that can thrive in an expanded role. You know, he comes over from Atlanta as the third or fourth wide receiver, and he thrives there because he's the defense's fourth, maybe fifth option. So it's just... I don't know if he's a true number 2, number 1. I'm not there. I think if there's an opportunity for New England to get out from under him with 1 year left on his deal, if you could trade him and get a pick back, that might be the way to go. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not seeing it. I think there's an opportunity to get out from this contract with 1 year left if a team wants to rent him for a year. I think, you know, giving the second-round pick to Atlanta, New England got the bad end of that deal. That's just me being honest. So Sanu, I don't see it. I'm a little worried about the wide receiving core. I don't know if they have really grown too much between 2019 and 2020. But I hope they're good, and they're going to need to be a little bit better for them to compete this year. I'm very unsure. Next up, the tight ends. This one, I think, is pretty simple. It's the 2 rookies that we'll talk about, and I'll lump Jakob Johnson in here because I think he'll make it as a fullback, but Dalton Keene has also gotten some work with the running backs and fullbacks. So I think Jakob Johnson looks good, looks like a promising fullback, tight end, whatever. And if they're going to flip-flop Dalton Keene in that kind of a role. But it's in terms of first and foremost, Devin Asiasi, he looks good. I think he's going to have about as productive of a rookie year as you could ask for a tight end coming into the league. He's made a couple nice plays in camp. He's grown as a blocker, too. He showed some promise. So I'm intrigued. I'm excited about Asiasi. As far as Dalton Keene, his transition, to me, from what I've read, has been a little bit tougher, finding where he fits in and what his role is going to be in New England. From what I understand, he's had a better second week than he had a first week of camp. It looks like he's starting to get his NFL legs under him, but I think it's going to take a few weeks or maybe even his whole rookie year to find out where his best fit and what his best assets are to a team like New England. And finally, let's talk about the offensive line. Now, all of this is an asterisk on the health of Joe Thuney. He looks, and I think he's going to be okay. He participated in practice Friday with a heavy wrap on his hand after he went down awkwardly on his hand on Thursday. So it's a promising sign that he practiced, you know, today, Friday. So I think if everyone's healthy, the offensive line, for the most part, is going to be fine. Wynn looked very good as he really got his legs under him in the NFL. Joe Thuney, you don't have to, you know, if you've been a fan of the channel here for a while, you know my feelings on Joe Thuney. David Andrews looks like he's worked himself back into the rhythm of being one of the better centers in the NFL. Shaq Mason, for what he's, you know, asked to do, he'll be very good. And it looks to me like the right tackle's probably, it's going to be maybe a rotation, but for as far as my understanding, Aluminar is probably going to be the guy. From what I've read, he's a better run blocker than he's a pass blocker, but when you're blocking for Cam Newton and you're not his blindside blocker, you don't have to be perfectly excellent. You know, I think he'll be okay in that, and I think he'll be a good run blocker, which I think will help what New England is going to want to do with the ball more in 2020. To expand on that idea, kind of my final wrap-up here of the offense headed into the regular season, I think that they're going to run the ball a ton. I don't think that it's a coincidence that they'll probably enter the season with 5 running backs on the team. I think they're going to want to pound the rock a lot. They have the offensive line to do that. And I think if you're going to give Cam as many high percentage throws as you possibly can, and to control the clock and to not get into these, you know, big barn burner of games, they're going to want to run the ball. So I think there's going to be a heavy emphasis on that. And I think it's going to be intriguing. I mean, this is the first season without Brady. Cam has had his troubles as a passer. There's been some good, there's been some bad. And it's just a different season. And I'm excited. I'm intrigued. You know, and this is through, you know, 2 weeks of practice. That's what your offense looks like. And I'm ready. Bring it on. Bring on the regular season. I'm ready for some regular season football. It's going to be interesting without the crowd in the stands and everything that goes on involving that. But what do you think of the Patriots offense? You know, listening to me talk about them, is there things you agree with? If there's things you disagree with, leave it in the comments down below. I'd love to chop it up with you again about anything Patriot football related. I love to talk about all that stuff. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate every single one of you that subscribes. We're growing this family. This team is growing every single day, and I appreciate every single one of you that take the time to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter, @TheTylerBrand, on Instagram, @TalkingPats. And once again, I'm Tyler Brandt. Be safe, be good, and I'll catch you on the next video.